Yeah, so you show receive.
That's right.
And here the mowing dock over here and
The public Wi-Fi is.
at the time of that ADA standards.
Yeah.
I also have Kara by Zoom, just so you're aware,
Oh,
from facilities. We're good to go. We're ready.
My mic's not set.
That.
Okay, we'll bring this building committee meeting to order. This meeting was posted as required by state law. Everybody's here. We'll stand for a moment of silent prayer. Yeah, great. And here.
Mowing dock over here and
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Apologize for technical issues. I'm not sure where that came from. Did everybody review the minutes for January 20th and February 17th meetings? Any changes required? Or are we good as is? Seeing,
Do we need a motion to approve?
wanting to approve? I don't know if we really need one, but. No, we just approve them as read then. Okay, moving on to discussion items. A, review of the government center overall and department layout plans. Floor is yours, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll see in your packet and up on the screen, the overall site layout plans. Not much has changed overall as far as where our department's gonna be and stuff like that, but we wanted to share with you that there's been some modifications to those areas. I'll go through those as we go through. So I'll kind of flip back and forth between the overall plan as well as the individual department plans. In the public lobby, you might recall that the committee saw fit that we should potentially have all staff and community members that come into the building go through security. So you see two security lines going through the public lobby. Again, one will be used most of the time, the other one secondary purposes. High traffic volume days or when the other system goes down. The sheriff will look for potentially buying the second system on auction. I know that airports are potentially getting rid of some of their security measures that they have there and upgrading to something that's a little more high tech and stuff. So no changes layout to the public lobby than what you've seen in the last several times. Same thing with the mailroom and vending area is exactly what we've seen before last month. The jury assembly room has access to both the Justice Center, which is in the top of the screen, or north, and then also access to the rest of the building. The reason why we're looking at that is that with some of the other conference areas potentially going away, if the clinic does stay on site, allows us for a larger meeting room. We have like town hall meetings for staff and such like that. I'll get into the clinic when we get up to the second floor, but any questions on those three areas? Again, not a lot of major modifications, and we'll be getting you more detailed plans, what that looks like, and we'll determine how in detail we want to go with our security plans for you, like which walls are ballistic walls and ballistic glass, and which ones isn't. So we'll have to work through that with the sheriff to see what he all wants to be made public or what should be in your plan set provided separately independently when it comes to the actual security of the building. So just understand we're still going to work through that as well.
Scott, I had a question, and I'm sure you have people that do this on the public entry of the two security that are so the two metal detectors, you know how they're detected, one's right and one's left. Now, I'm not an expert on these things, but I get into a lot of facilities where I have to go through them.
Sure.
And they'll usually have them, you know, one is used, you know, just like you're saying in our application, the vast majority of the time. And one is for some sort of anomaly event that you might have a lot of people coming in for, but they usually have them in line so that if there's staff at one, you can easily move someone to the second one and everybody's right there, right? As opposed to having them in completely different areas where you have to have like two sets of staff and you can't really see the other person. And I'm sure, again, that there's people that do this for a living. But every place I go to, like I go to Pfizer Forum, I was there this morning, you have to go through a backhouse security and they've got two metal detectors. And they hardly ever use two, but they did today because the NCAA's on it, and I'm just saying they're always there in the line. That someone just opens one and then they close the other one off right away, but everybody's right there. The other thing is when people walk into a facility, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're right-handed, you tend to turn right, and if you're left-handed, unless you're cued or you're prompted, you go left. So it can also create confusion as to if you're supposed to go two different directions, which direction someone's supposed to go into. So whereas if everything leaves it in one space, there's only one place to go. Just a thought.
Well, I think when you look at the layout and, you can see we've got the layout independently as well. So they come in the main door, they can go right or left right when they come in the entranceway.
Right.
And so if you're not using the left one, this door will be closed. And if you come in direction, you go to the right, so I would assume there'd be some kind of a sign or something saying both lanes open, left or right, or a deputy there. kind
Or
of
monitor or something
Right,
like that.
deputy there potentially pushing them in each direction,
I'm just saying it creates.
yes.
Chairman Schleif, would you care to comment?
I don't wanna get in the weeds here right away, but also. When you have just an exit in the middle and it looks like there's walls, we have to have somebody monitor that exit, so somebody going out doesn't let somebody in, you know. Obviously. We're gonna have more thought go into it, I suppose, so.
Yes, the deputy locations would be in this location as well as this locations. It's not a wall that goes up high, it's only a half wall. Again, a wall for protection for the deputies to make sure that if they need to duck and cover, if they got an area to do that. And so they'd have deputies, either this location monitoring that exit, or deputies in both locations to monitor that.
So they can watch, okay.
Any other questions? We're good? Okay.
And so I'll go next to the county clerk's office, that's right near the entrance. This year. Not a lot of major changes that you saw last time. We showed you that, one set of workspaces, we now added a second set of workspaces. People are coming there for a passport, marriage license, all that kind of stuff. If you're not familiar with upstairs, people can queue outside their office. And right here, we don't want really people queuing up in the lobby area of there's security going through. So it made sense to add a separate, another couple of workstations there. And we'll work with the clerk, and those are actually like workstations are just a counter for people to come in and do some work on. Or just chairs that they can sit on and do stuff on their lap. So we're going to show that workstation work in there. Again, we did the I do wall and the passport photos so that they do more passport photos. So the staff can stay behind the counter and do the passport photo. And that's why they picked that location there, make it a little easier. We did slide this wall back to give them a little more, remember that door was in this location. And so we actually slid that back a little bit to actually give more counter space to the clerk. You'll see this little square often on all of our countertops. That's where the ADA countertop is. So again, a little bit lower location for that. And then you'll see the most likely the county clerk's office's location. We moved because they have a smaller staff. They actually requested their refrigerator and countertop be moved into their conference room, allowed for a storage room to be just a little bit bigger, and also allowed, again, we'll truth this out. This is a file cabinet shown here, and that's when we get the plan set, but allowing like kind of that free movement of people coming in or items coming in the hallway, going through one door, going through another door, so kind of more to jogging around, all that kind of stuff. So it's one thing where we're working with the file cabinet, so that this door ends up being, you know, there's foot to the north, the file cabinet behind it, something like that. So we'll work with the clerk once we get these final details. And as I said, there'll be still some movement in these where the door might shift a foot or two. I'll talk about that in the treasurer's office in a moment. But basically we had a pretty good layout of what those office furniture looks like going forward. So any questions on the clerk's office?
Everybody correct?
Thank you. And I'm assuming this question is kind of for all departments, but for like where it says storage, I'm assuming we've kind of reviewed with all the departments, their actual storage needs, or,
Yes.
you know, X number of file cabinets or whatever?
Yeah, we went through with file cabinets, storage space, what they need now, what they anticipate in the future. The clerk's a little bit different because their storage needs during voting times is larger, and obviously during the normal part of the year, it's smaller. And so this is their smaller storage, that if they have an election, something like that, we got other areas that like a room that's gonna be right behind me, or depending where the clinic goes, right down the hall here, that would be used for storage, like the ballots and stuff like that during that election time. So yes, we've been working with them on even stuff like where staff hanging their coats and stuff like that. So we've been kind of working with all these, can get more and more into the details every meeting that we go to.
Okay,
Storage of paper products and
okay, because I'm looking at like the conference room with the storage and then. Naturally, I would want to make the storage smaller and the conference room bigger, but obviously, every department has different day-to-day needs. Like,
yeah, they figure with 4 staff members and not really expanding, they'd rather have the more storage and with more conference space. They don't, generally speaking, a lot of stuff they do is public facing. And if they have to meet with all the clerks, they're gonna need a lot larger space. You might be able to meet with all the municipal clerks in the clerk's office. That's one of the things we work with them too, going, you don't need that big conference room to meet with all the clerks. You can, and should not ask for that. I'm make sure clear on that, but we go down the hallway and use some of the other conference space for that type of meeting. So this is just for like a staff meeting, all that kind of stuff. So and you wanted that the door would be facing that direction so that if somebody else came in, or the meeting, they can see people coming into the counter and stuff. So it's kind of all that stuff we kind of work through every department.
okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gallus.
Thank you, Chair. And this may be really extreme here, but, when we got public access board space next to the wall for election computer. Is there any concern about risk there with some kind of sabotage, whatever the case might be? Or are all of our stuff in a cloud anyways? So that's just a dumb machine.
I would think that's a better question for the clerk to answer. She'd ask for a little area to make sure that she's based in her office, that's secured inside of her office. If it goes from there, or maybe the storage area, her office has its current location. If you're not familiar with that, has, I'll call it floor to ceiling windows going outside. So she might elect to maybe move that in a different location into the secure location. She asked us to show them a plan, and that's where she'd like to keep it, so make sure she has room in her office for those as she does right now. But I guess the final answer is on security location, we'll work with departments on to see if that's really the best location, or if it's, you know, back in your storage area or somewhere, right, or easier not have open to the public.
I have a quick question for you too. With the overall plan, how does that compare to the overall area they have right now for her office?
Significantly smaller,
It is, and it's still adequate for the future needs and stuff?
yes.
Okay, it kind of seems smaller, because I think she's in a vault now, right? Or one of her offices is in a vault or
The
something?
mail room is in the vault, but mail room we moved out of her, it's right across the hall from her now, so again, the storage area she has there, she got some dead space in her office, if you haven't been there before, right to the right as you walk in, there's some dead space. The cubicles are pretty far apart, you've got the old vault, is used as the mail room, so if you can imagine, mail room goes away because we're physically moving it, so she doesn't need that space anymore, and like I said, you got some dead space up in front as well. So it's not really laid out real well currently.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Krebs?
Obviously, I know these are so preliminary, but. There's a column right in the middle of the main track wall.
Yeah.
Stuff like that will still have to get flushed out, right?
Yes, yeah, I put in my report, there's stuff like columns and HVAC, that's all that kind of stuff that, we've got a set of plans for the building. The building's been remodeled several times, so. Okay, the 3rd floor where the clerk reports, there was a place where the columns were, and then we went out there and measured them, and they were all back a couple feet. So it's something we're still truthing out all that stuff, now we get a little more further detailed into the plan, about where exactly are these column locations. This one's actually pretty well known where it is, because we just remodeled the area, because where the clinic and this is where the clinic was, or is, and then right next to the facilities area. So these we have pretty much narrowed down.
Okay, so both still have to.
We'll work with that on locations and ADA accessibility to make sure they get by the columns and and stuff. You'll see where we talk about the register of deeds and treasurer's office, we actually incorporated the column into part of the design.
Thank you.
So going down the hall, we'll slide over to the treasurer register of deeds area. Next. Made some significant changes to this area. I know that the treasurer is in as well. I don't know if register deeds is here. So this one we had actually significant changes since your last time. You may recall this area was all open to the public. And after looking at that and the amount of volume of foot traffic that the two departments do have on a daily basis, it was determined it'd be better off to have that a wall in this location and interior seating, so people can come in because they're parking probably pretty close to the same as they're doing the building right now. I think we have some seating along this wall, so people are visiting the treasurer or register of deeds can come in, see along there, and then have countertop and counter space there. Again, we got the higher counter, lower counter, and then extend this wall all the way out, basically creates a little kind of workstation there for people that are kind of private by just incorporating that column into design. By encapsulating that and kind of almost create a little nook, if you will, people that want to do some paperwork or stuff that's kind of out of the way a little bit, a little more private, that they have that capability. And then when we look at that, remember the door going into the treasurer's office and register of deeds were coming out of the hallway. The treasurer had a great idea of what if we put that doorway coming off of here? Now, their staff would have to go out 2 doors or in 2 doors. But allowing that means people that are in the hallway, coming down the hallway, we can do some nice wayfinding at the end of the hallway. But then the doors down the hallway are the ones for the public to come into. They don't have to guess which door to come into, and we'll talk about public doors versus private doors a little later on. But I think that was a great addition to this plan, instead of having those doors sort of being external. It allows for a drop box in this location versus right at the end of the hall. Again, so we can use that whole wall space for wayfinding that we go through. And that's again, we see other columns are in that location that we gotta verify are in those locations going forward. But you see we added encompassing this location, this one back here. So again, we are trying our best to accommodate most of those locations, but appreciate the treasurer's register's flexibility and continue looking at the plans as we kind of flush through them a little bit. And you know, we still have a little bit of work to do. We might slide these 2 workstations, you know, down a little bit more to the left or to the west. Same thing with the treasurer's door. We might, depending on the exact column location, push this off this wall all the way up to that column location there. And then that door maybe stays in that same location, so that the desk could be more in this location, that you can maybe see through the desk, through the door, excuse me, all the way up to the counter. So again, some things we're still working on, truthing out a little bit and getting a little more fine detail where, you know, worst case scenario is the door would slide over maybe 2 feet, so you can still see in and out to the counter. So, and again, this is one of those areas which we'll touch on a little bit later on. The clerk was there, the clerk reports, and the district attorney's office, where we actually put a lot of the furniture in there in great detail, because the areas are quite smaller. If you've been to the treasury register of deeds, these areas are quite a bit smaller than what they have right now. So we wanted to make sure that the office furniture actually fit in those locations. And that's why you see like the treasurer's office being 150 square feet. It really didn't pay to put the desk on the counter, because we understand it just to be a desk, just to be a chair in there. We know there's plenty of room for that to fit. However, outside in these areas, we want to make sure that the cubicles that we have and that we could order would fit in those locations and fit properly. And we'll talk about the cubicles a little bit later on in the furniture plan, which ones are potentially staying, which ones are new. So that's the major changes. This area, say we had a common area before for the copy printer with several doors coming in and out. They did key in, key out because they didn't want to intermix staff between the 2 departments. But instead of having the door between there and the common area, we found an area that each had their own little area for a coffee, maker, printer, you know, refrigerator, stuff like that. More areas.
Where's the real property lister going?
I don't want to speak for the treasurer, but there are 3 seats right here. So one of these 3 seats would be, one would be real property lister, assistant real property lister, and assistant treasurer, deputy treasurer, excuse me. But it'd be up to that those departments determine exactly which person goes in which location.
He's making hand signals behind us.
I think he's got. To the north, that's right.
Which one?
To the north, the two to the north. Would be the-
Real property would be in these two locations, and then deputy treasurer in this location.
Thank you.
And of course, then in registry's office, the file cabinets and historical books would be along the wall. The location, plus then they have other records stored in the back that need to be behind those doors. And then go through all of our death certificates, stuff like that, that they keep accessible to the public, but only when other staff is there.
Just a quick question, with everything online nowadays, are we still, do we still need that much storage for our physical paper stuff?
Yes,
Yeah.
they still keep that, even though we did I think the previous register of deeds, and this one did a great job of scanning those documents, and keeping them well. Every once in a while, you get a clunker of a scan, that you need to go back there and look at the original,
Sure.
but also people can come in there and do that if they don't want to do it online. They have that capability and ability, so.
Okay. Thank you. Supervisor Krebs?
Two comments. First one is, and this is for other departments too, but like the main office, like the head office, a lot of them are just shown as doors. There are one or two that other departments show them with like a side light and stuff. Is there been much thought or reasoning on why some get them, some don't?
Yes, we have some safe rooms built into a lot of the apartments. And so typically speaking, we try to make those safe without a window attached to them. And so you see a lot of rooms that don't have that light, that side light, are considered safe rooms.
Okay, so dual purpose with them.
Yes.
Okay.
And we've talked to those departments and they're aware of it.
The other question was, once my brain gets something in its mind, it's hard to unforget it, but right now, when you go to the real property lister, you go into the register of deeds office. This is showing going to the treasurer's office, even, it's right next door to the register of deeds, but it's still the treasurer's office. Is that? I don't even know, the real property lister, is that function of the treasurer? Or is it? Because I always kind of associated with the register of deeds. So is it just retraining the general public like myself of where they would have to find that sub-department or whatever?
Yeah, I think we do that easily with the wayfinding on the doorways. Most likely that the two doors that enter that, the reception is a common reception area. So even if they come in this door here that might say register of deeds on it, they come to this window and then it's gonna walk right there to get to the real property lister or treasurer.
First year to the register of deeds would keep pointing people.
It might be, or I'm guessing they put a nice sign on that column that's right there.
We
Come
don't
in,
read signs,
so.
we just go to the owner and ask.
I think that's why it's nice to have that big common area and dual counters where people can, if they do make a mistake and go to one, they don't have to walk down the hallway, you just push them down the counter a little bit and they're right there.
Thank you.
Any other questions in that particular area? So we go down the hallway. Right behind me, we'd be looking at a conference room again. That one might be used for, again, it's a fairly secure room. Potentially could be used for ballots and everything else during election time, or coming in the back door in this location. Could be a small conference room in this location. This is where the plans slightly differ. This plan has these areas, the two conference rooms across the hallway from us right now, staying as is. And that's if the clinic is not here, those rooms don't need a lot of work to them, very minimal work. And then those would remain as conference rooms across the way. If the clinic does go upstairs, then we need this area for the facilities and a small conference room. And so on this particular layout, there's not a lot of movement down there, and I'll try to find the one that has white for some reason in the middle of those plans. So this would be if the facilities was in that area. You have a small conference room that can still be accessible by the public hallway, and the remainder of the area would be then facilities. We can get back to the facilities. area here, if they have facilities downstairs. There's pluses and minuses of having facilities down here because our loading dock is this location right outside the back door here. A lot of our mechanicals are obviously right across the hallway. Our boiler room is right across the hallway. So there's some benefits if the clinic does go on the first floor to facilities be down in the area. Although they are basically away from everybody else, they're down the hallway from everybody else, and no one else is on this part of the floor. But then you have the entrance door here to facilities that could be public, so if the public does need to contact facilities, and very few outside deliveries do, we would have a public facing door. Also, again, close to our loading dock and the exterior. We have a coffee counter, a small conference room, 3 offices, collaboration office that we can use for our basically our foremen and some of our staff to come in. We have some workstations along this area, and then here we have a couple of cubicles for like administration staff that are currently with us. So again, we are confident in the area that we have here and our size. We didn't show all the furniture inside that building, but there would be some workstations along this wall that staff can use and come in, touch point, and then head on back out. We have now we're going to get iPads for all of our staff that are out there doing work orders. They can get to work orders, do the work orders right on site. They don't need little areas inside the office to actually do a lot of work besides just someplace to sit down, maybe do some paperwork or make a phone call. That's what the collaboration was for, so they can have some privacy if they make a phone call. Any questions on the facilities area?
They have an abundant room here.
What's that?
They have an abundant amount of room here.
Yes, yep. So that's it for the base of the main floor that we're looking at, and we can go up to the second floor. Quite a bit of changes over in the community development area as well. Look at their office space and their needs. And you see that extended up into this conference room earlier with some storage in the background. We had a few meetings with that staff and look at the area and what they actually need. So we eliminated the one interior conference room that was in this location, converted to an office. And I will get to their detail here in a second. Oh, here it is. And so even with the potential future planning, a planner, chair planner, multiple chair planners, what we did was we can combine them down to having these 5 offices for their current 4 staff members, plus a cubicle out in the open for people that are coming in to greet and stuff. We'd also allow for this area that's where this coffee counter is, could also be a future cubicle. This area could have an extra intern or anything like that. So again, reduce their storage down, be pretty minimal, about 105 square feet of storage area, and then several offices, and then 1 internal conference room to use when they're doing Heart and Homestead and all that kind of stuff, where they have a lot of other clientele coming in that they have their own conference room internally, a smaller one, and then have access with the rest of the floor to a larger conference room right next to them. So it's when I got a significant change from before that wasn't shown before. Any questions on their area? Again, we have some storage area across the way. We have a public mother's room up on the 2nd floor. The law library changed where it was. The district attorney will start up there. We did make some changes to there and still working with the district attorney's office on final layout as we're looking through there. That's this one. Working with the district attorney, if this conference room needs to be expanded or not. They had a lot of shelving in there for library books and stuff, and you know, most people are using their stuff online, as Supervisor Krebs mentioned before. So just by the fact about moving some of those books out of there might make the conference room large enough for them to actually utilize and work around their current conference table. I'll be looking for future expansion as well. This is one of those areas where we actually got our furniture vendor come in and look at those areas and actually map out where the columns are and where those potential cubicles could be, to make sure that we didn't limit ourselves later on saying, oh, these should fit. We actually wanted to make sure that they did fit in those locations. So the last thing we're doing is working on the district attorney with this conference room layout going. If you do want to bump this over literally 2.5 to 3 feet, is really worth it, first of all, for the kind of money it is just to move that wall a couple feet, versus having the potential layout of these cubicles over here and what that would look like. So everything else that you see in the plans with the supervisor, in addition of these 2 offices and this large one, is the same as you've seen before. So, you know, we're getting kind of down to more details with some of these areas and working with those offices to make sure when we say they're gonna fit, that they actually fit. So any questions on the district attorney's layout? The natural resources department, which is in this location here, we talked about briefly, and that's one of those areas where we talked earlier about storage, where we had them go back to look at their storage needs again. And this area you see here was a rather large storage area that they needed, and now that by reviewing that, we moved the storage to the back corner. I kept this park storage here, and they believe that they can get away with that minimal storage as opposed to the larger storage you saw on previous plan sets. And how that looks, you might recall, is the public area reception area is this location. This was actually 2 different rooms for collaboration, and determined that they could get away with only having 2 collaboration rooms instead of needing potentially up to 4. That they could just coordinate that a little bit better among staff. You can also use the conference room in the back for collaboration if you need to. We tightened up the cubicles. You saw these areas here were more of a plus symbol. We adjusted those accordingly to get a little more space in there, as well as these areas over here, which had quite a bit of dead space in that area last time. So we tightened those all areas up, shifted some of these assistant directors and locker rooms down a little bit to make a little bit more room there. And so with this storage that you have up here, a park storage down below here, as well as it has some area up here for some files, as well as down the middle aisle for files. They felt that they could get away with that minimal storage area versus need this larger area. And we could convert that into a more of an IT training room that's more school style, so people can actually go up there with a big screen and do some more trainings in that room. Being it's right across from the IT and GIS area, but could also be used by other staff within the whole building as well. So there's some major modifications to this area. We're appreciative again of that department really looking and focusing on what they need. They're doing a great job of scanning a lot of files right now to make sure they're not actually we don't have to bring them across the street. They don't have a place to actually put those files. So they're doing a good job. They've got some cages down in the basement over to Casey they're looking at getting up to, and maybe not bring everything they've had for the last 40 years in the building over with them. Any comments on their area? Again, we might recall this print area is a shared or common printer area amongst the whole building, so that we don't have multiple printers, one here, one across the street anymore. Everyone that wants to print, be able to print in this area. That would be a separate access door with a card reader back there, so that someone goes down to real property listers and wants something after hours on the plotter, the real property listers go upstairs, get that off the plotter and take it back down to those residents again. So we're trying to reduce our own service footprint as well in the building, and not have as many printers and plotters and stuff and scanners. Going across all is the IT and GIS. Not a lot of major changes in those areas as well. There you go. Again, 2 access points where we have IT storage in 2 different locations. With all the servers and computers and everything else we've got going on. We have an imaging area here where they are setting up new computers, new desktops. So a lot of those storage areas would be in this. Again, it's secure, no windows to the outside world, so the new computer stuff will be in this area, so you can do the imaging right across from them. We have some cubicles in this location and take care of the natural light and bringing them in, so that's a little different. There's some workstations, but we have some cubicles available in those locations. And as well as GIS down around the end, and if we continue to expand our GIS staff, this GIS storage would simply become an office for GIS staff. You know, we're just looking at bringing on a whole bunch of municipalities recently, and if we add the rest of them, they might have one more meetings for expansion, so. And in the IT world, we do feel we have enough to expand to, if we do need to expand to more municipalities, because I'll pick on the village of Germantown where I live. If we take on their workload, that person most likely be housed in Germantown. They wouldn't be housed here because of the workload that Germantown would, most likely need. That person be down in Germantown most days versus coming to work here and driving down to Germantown every day. They'd be housed down in Germantown, and we're finding that out from our workload up in the village of Kewaskum, and how many times we can do stuff remotely, and how many times we actually need to be there physically in house. And a little different up in Kewaskum now with what they're doing with all the remodeling and moving around and stuff, so it's not a one-to-one, but it does give us a little feel for when you have a larger staff like Johnson or Jackson does have, or I'll pick on the city of Hartford if we do them, they have a need for having someone in house most days. So they be housed there, and that's where we have these collaboration or little desktops here that they can use to come and check in when they're in the office. And then you can be on the field or on the locations more often. So that's why when we look at this going, well, it might not fit every IT staff, but the odds of if we do pick up West Bend and Germantown and Jackson, that the odds of all those people needing to be in one location at one time at a desk, I would think are fairly similar. They can multitask and use those areas to our advantage. And so, but that's when you look it up, we start doing all the numbers in the area doesn't quite match up, and that's what we're trying to use those touch points, they call them, for staff. First, having offices for everybody that might only be in one day a week or even only a couple hours a week. Any questions on the IT or GIS area? And then we got facilities that is up on the first floor. Right past that already. Basically, this one passed it. So facilities area would go where the clinic goes. So again, it's either clinic or facilities in that location into the hall.
I think we touched base on those already.
Yep. Yeah, we touched base. Nothing's really changed. The clinic hasn't changed at all since we talked in that location. So you need to have waiting room and exam rooms and stuff. That location. We went with Freighter earlier because we thought this might be like the very first phase initially on. So Freighter has blessed these locations as well, and it's not too far off what they have downstairs. Adding a lot of space, reducing a lot of savings. Freighter is not our provider in the future. An exam room is an exam room is an exam room versus an office layout. So do that. If it is facilities, again, we're using that same doorway coming in. We have a work area, which means it's a common desk that people can work on, our workstations. A little bit of storage that we have, a small conference room again, the collaboration office. So again, 3 offices. And we show some cubicles in there as well. That's what that work area would be, cubicles. Any questions on that area? And then down the corner, we did swap the break room and conference room, thinking that you really want the staff going outside our front door and having lunch and pick a table right along Highway 33. It might be best if they go out our side entrance door and have everybody come in and out the west entrance door and put a picnic table up over there versus people see people, because if someone takes a break at your normal lunch 11:30 all the way to 1, it looks like people are out there for an hour and a half eating lunch versus the half hour or less that they're actually allotted. So we did look at it, making that change. Again, with the sewer and water coming out of there, making that a break room makes it pretty easy as well. That's the direction the sewer comes in and out of the building is right through Jessel's office. So go up to the 3rd floor now. Clerk Courts, I did see Sherry in the back. So she's here as well, and hers is one of those that we spent quite a bit of time bringing in jail furniture to look at her office layout and what that would potentially look like in the future. And I will work my way to there. Again, we actually laid out a lot of the interior office furniture, and it's a larger area, so it spreads out over actually 2 of our pages. And so we still got a little bit of work to do to finalize some things here. We did create taking our conference room and taking some of that area to create a coffee counter and little break area in that location. So I got to truth out some of these areas here, but brought in jail to actually, again, measure those column locations, put in office furniture that would work. Again, you'll see these cubicles are not the L shape, but more of a U shape. Again, working with departments on what they're having representatives up close to the reception area at this location, public counter and more locations of staffing and near that the public reception area, laying out printers, and they are currently a high user of file cabinets. She's doing a great job of eliminating those when possible and doing scanning as much as she can. So we're very appreciative of that, and the previous clerk reports were as well. So you'll see that down, but we actually showed again those file cabinets where they would look at, where they would be, and the second page shows that again the rest of the layout, and again having a pretty good feel for layouts, office space, cabinets, storage need, and secured storage need as well. So you'll see a little more detail in that office than you have in the past, where even along the offices you see on the outside, we're not doing anything. We didn't show the desks and everything in those locations because they're there ready, so we know they fit. But you'll see a little more detail in this office space where what they're losing the area down below into large conference area and some future small conference area, this area. So that area was part of that corporate courts, with all the file storage they've been able to change them into electronics. They're able to utilize that more compact area than the larger area, but still recognizing that some of these file cabinets are definitely needed in their space.
On the corridor, there's a door there at the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
Is that corridor supposed to be a public corridor? Because it's public on if you enter it from the top side or from the other end.
That's one thing we need to work with our security team at, is where does that public and private thing start and stop? One of the things that the sheriff just touched base with me on is, for instance, if coming to the building, right, where is concealed carry going to be allowed anywhere in the building now? Or right now, we're kind of considered 2 separate buildings. You got the Justice Center, you got the Government Center. If everybody's going through security in this building, what does that look like? And that's a question that's going to come back to you at some point when we get that little more detail going. All right, what does that look like? Can staff and board members bring in concealed carry through the other entrance, or is it not allowed at all in the building? What does that look like? So same thing with here going, well, if it's allowed in this building but not allowed in the other building, then that door might be there just to have a place where we can actually key card, only certain people can go into the other part of the building, Justice Center. So, or different rules or regulations and how you separate those buildings out. If it's all a public hallway all the way through, then there's probably no separation in the sheriff's mind. Who could wander wherever they want in the building. So that's part of the thing that goes into the clinic discussion as well, and how they're looking at. So I think the security question that comes back to you might look a little bit different than last time, a little more detailed than what you have right now, or what you looked at a couple months ago.
The other question is if you go to the north half or
Yep.
that one, the reception area, my eyes are good, but I can't read right where your cursor is, that like workstation.
It's a public computer.
Okay, that I wanted to make sure that we're still maintaining that type of stuff.
Yes, we've been working really closely with the clerk reports to make sure that the functionality is not lost in this area.
Thank you.
The remaining thing is the 3rd floor on the executive and county board's office. We had this kind of shown roughly last time what we'll be looking at doing. There's a break room that's in this location right now. There's potential, and again, we haven't defined yet who's going where yet. But this could be the county board suite later on, So you have the county board chair in this location, the assistant in this location, and they would have their own separate conference room. And this door could be there or not there. That way you're kind of separating between the executive branch of government, and legislative branch of government. But it could also be that the county board chair stays in the current location. This office is used by Aaron Dahl, with Department of Administration, who was where this conference room is right now. So again, final details haven't really been totally flushed out yet. The conversation's been had of different opportunities, but there's no decision, I don't think, been made at that location. The benefit of having this conference room in this location is that people coming in that are waiting to meet with the county executive or administration, or even right now the county board chair, can be directed right into a conference room. And then they don't have to kind of walk through the whole back room, if you will, if they're meeting with the chair or the executive or anybody in those offices. So, and then the people that are in those offices could enter that conference room again from the backside. So for a little bit better access versus having everyone coming in to have a common shared conference room right now. So they have a two conference rooms to work with, so a little easier for them to communicate, hopefully.
On the conference room on the upper right by that one there, could we also utilize, would it be to try to utilize another door into that one from the public vestibule or public kind of waiting room area to eliminate some of that back of, and the public entering the back of the house area? So like to the right of that conference room, there's enough, or is that not really meant to be a public entrance?
So this is what we gotta work on through our security team, if this is public or not, because this is our restroom here. And so we're looking at this, is this door even needed? Can we remove that door if this was a public restroom? So work with the architect firm to figure out where do we need public restrooms, where do we not? Because on this floor, at the end of the hallway on the west end, there's two restrooms down there, but they're most likely to be on the private side. And so this restroom shouldn't be public. They think it's more of a building thing, that they have enough other public restrooms, so you don't have to have a public restroom on every floor. But if you were in a conference room here, you know, with public access to it, on the other side of the hallway, it might make sense to have a restroom on that floor that's also open to the public. And so this might go away. And certainly by doing that, it could be that instead of this door where its current location is here, it could be utilized in this location. When you go to the hallway, it's a little more challenging with our marble that's up there and all that kind of stuff, but definitely know what I wrote down to see if when I work with the county board chair and the executive office to see if that's would be beneficial. Right now, it's just a money saving thing going, the door is there now. All we're doing is just nothing. Versus spending money to move the door. So that was kind of more of a, well, we don't do anything right now. They could also do it in the future if it becomes an issue, but that's something certainly we can talk to them about that we haven't broached that subject yet.
Yeah, with the bathroom, it really is a public, or is it more the employee bathroom only? Because right now it just seems like there's a lot of doors right there already in a small area.
Yep.
I guess, yeah, we'd have to figure out what's going on there.
I think that restroom gets used quite a bit by the staff, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Correct, yes, not just internal staff, the ones across the hallway and stuff use that word restroom.
Could you pull back up to the larger third floor image and actually highlight where all the restrooms are, whether public or private?
They're shown, they're down at the end of the hallway.
Okay.
This location here. That's the only other public restrooms on that third floor.
So all of the clerk of courts, where did they come down with those same restrooms?
Well, they would have car key access to get to them. Oh, I just informed, there's also one up. This location here, oh, men's room and women's room up in this location. So there's men's and women's rooms up here. But they would also, because they're staff, they'd be able to get through the doors here at this location to get to those restrooms. So they have key card access to get out. So there'll still be the private side restrooms that the staff could utilize, this location, if they so desire. I just wasn't sure how often your staff use those because of them interacting more with the public that's coming by you, Sherry, so. But they're there too, yes, so there are restrooms up in this location too.
When you say restrooms up in that area and they're public, so those are multiple. What facility?
I believe so.
For so large,
Yes.
larger
Yes,
crowds.
yes,
Okay, so it's adequate to handle the volume and, okay,
It's just when you look at it. When you look-
generally.
Yes.
Thank you.
When you look at that, the bathrooms on the left side of the page are gonna be behind the locked doors, so that those are employee only.
right,
If that door on the bottom of that corridor there is locked or secured,
right,
the public can get to those only if they're in the justice center.
correct,
So it's really a matter if there really aren't a lot of public restrooms up there then.
correct, on the third floor.
Yeah.
Correct, and like I said, our architect is looking at the code to see the amount of restrooms. I think that we have enough in our building and our public to the building, they don't need to have it public. But we certainly understand the thought process of if someone's up in the HR or visiting county executive, and they need to use the restroom, now they gotta go down a flight of stairs and come back up, it's not the most convenient.
I would lean towards, creating a public restroom. I don't wanna say blanketed by saying every floor, but it seems like in this particular scenario, there's enough hallway and corridor and, but I don't know, real foot traffic, but
Yeah, it would be
it seems like
simply,
it would be nice to have that available.
yeah, it would be simply as simple as removing this door. It's a pretty easy, inexpensive option.
But is that a multiple facility there as well, or is that just a single restroom?
Single restroom, ADA compliant, but it's for male or female.
And that's adequate for the amount of people that use that third floor?
Well, again, we have, for staff, we use the other restrooms,
That's
so,
That bathroom.
and there's a, what's it?
That bathroom's ADA compliant.
Yes, it was done as part of the ADA project.
From this view, it just doesn't look like there's enough turning radius of, in there for
Yeah, it's definitely bigger once you
Okay.
get to it.
a, okay.
there's lots of room.
Mhm.
Can have a dance in
Why don't,
that.
I'll go to dance or you go.
One more question with regards to what Supervisor Krebs brought up. So if people are going through security to get in, does it matter if we're allowing them to get around to the court area or not? I mean, before the court is secured, so, and we're not, right? So you can't get over there from here. But once we do the security on both sides, would it matter if that corridor is open so they get access to the other bathrooms?
I think what will matter is if the sheriff can determine if this is one building or two buildings. Like I said earlier about like concealed carry. And
Yeah.
if this body feels the need for staff or associates yourselves coming into meetings and having able to conceal carry into the back of the building, then we'd have to probably consider two separate buildings, which means you'd have a door in that corridor. If you're not, you're okay with having the same rules that are listed outside the Justice Center, going through for this building, then you wouldn't need doors in that corridor. And so it's really gonna come a question back to you about, it's two sets of doors, so we're not talking about a lot of expense, going forward, but how do you want the security to be handled in the building? And so we'll flush out some options for you, and most likely bring that back to you next month and with the deputy and probably the sheriff as well, coming here to talk about different options that are available to you and how we could consider that. Again, the conversation with the sheriff was extremely brief. We did not get into any detailed stuff. He just was like, we should really focus on this part next.
Scott, could that change the layout of the potential of two security desks in the public entrance lobby? How do you decide?
It's possible we could look at the security desks again, if that's based on what you decide, but that's what we're looking at right now is how to do what you want to do in this building.
I think it would behoove us all to talk to our fellow board members and stuff and see how they feel about, where the census is. Because if we wanna lock this down, there's gonna be some people that aren't happy with that. Right? Not allowing firearms and stuff.
I'm assuming there's different positions on that.
Either gallons.
Yeah, right, that could be dicey, but if we're looking at, you know. Doge and efficiencies, and if we're trying to carry that out here. Why would we have two separate security entrances? That just doesn't make sense. Now you gotta have staffing at different timeframes. Now you're talking about more expense and if it's really necessary for foot traffic and volume. So to have one main security entrance, that seems prudent to me. And a little bit of inconvenience it might cause here or there, doesn't outweigh the cost of manning an extra security station, in my opinion.
Yeah. The inconvenience of not allowing people to carry things that they're allowed to carry.
Well, the employers all the time restrict, any building or facility can restrict, whether you can have a little carrier.
Yeah.
They're not even out for decades.
I don't want to speak for Supervisor Krebs, but I think his thought is this is considered a public building, not a private enterprise, you know, where they are allowed to make their own rules, but.
True.
So I get, you're right, freedom is that.
Address, but I guess I'm looking at.
Right.
Is that infringing a right versus an extra cost?
Mhm.
So if Mr. or Mrs. Taxpayer wants to bring their concealed carry in, are they also willing to pay for an extra 2 deputies, 24/7 or whatever, 8 hours a day for 5 days a week?
Well,
You
it's-
know, so it's a trade-off.
If we're securing the building though, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer would not be allowed to bring concealed carry in. Correct. It would just be employees. Am I thinking that through correctly? So now we're making a decision if we want to also say, well, employees should not be allowed to carry them into the building. They would have to lock them in their car or whatever, right?
I mean, with your previous decision, and certainly you discussed it more, was that everybody from the public that's coming into the building, whether it's Justice Center, Government Center, goes to security, cannot conceal carry, because they're going through security.
Correct.
It would be for staff or board members, that would be, what are their options?
Well, and it's not just zone in a sealed carry, there's a list of prohibited items.
Correct.
Right, you're talking water bottles and
And I was
stuff
gonna
like
say,
that.
if you slow it down to
Right.
hot and ice water bottles,
Mhm.
other
That this
food items.
Right. I guess we'll have to, and I remember we discussed this before, we're getting closer to that point, where we're gonna have to keep that in the front of our thoughts. Supervisor Dallas, you want to continue your thought?
Supervisor Fred's point, yeah, let's understand what the implications are, one way or the other. Right, what cost to be associated with that, and then make an informed decision based on having all the information. So if it means, Sheriff Schultes comes and also presents, what does that mean or entail? To the point about all other restricted items, would that apply in all situations? And then make a recommendation, right? Because that's what our idea is, to make a recommendation and eventually the board, because that will be a board policy piece, because it's impacting what, hundreds of employees.
If I can add to that too, would it behoove us, Scott, if we talk to all the leaders of the different departments and ask their employees or prospective employees in their areas, if they conceal carry, if they care which way it goes in this building? I mean, there's a sheriff's department here, I feel perfectly safe, I conceal carry, but I don't carry here. But I'm not working here every day. I mean, could we just have not anything, it doesn't have to be official, just have them ask them and see if there's anybody who have any concerns with that, and moving along.
To that
Supervisor Schwab.
To that point, I think establishing principles and policies is more important than the opinion of existing employees who may not be here 5 years.
That is
So I
true.
think the policies and principles are more important.
They are, but I'd still like to get a census, just to feel it out, like everything else we do, we talk to the public and see how they feel, right?
I'm sure there are strong opinions on both sides.
I'm sure there will be, but it'd just be interesting to see how many actually do carry right now. And if they feel the need to do in the future, and again, we're just talking inside this building. Chairman Schleif?
All these comments are great comments. And we do need to have a practice, but I think deciding that practice is gonna rest pretty much on the sheriff's decision. And whether he views it as two buildings or one, so. I look
Yeah.
forward to discussions next month.
It would be interesting to have that with him, because he might see other complications
Exactly.
either way. That we're not looking at right now, or we're not seeing.
Whose decision is it? Or, right now, the sheriff is tasked with the justice center's security. Who's tasked with the security of this building, the government?
I think we are, aren't we?
So it's our decision, if then not the sheriff's decision, unless we would.
Unless you're considered one building.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the higher authority, which would most likely be the sheriff who's responsible for the justice center and court system. The court system will most likely trump that. And so that's where we gotta have that conversation, right, with the sheriff in the room and discuss, okay, what does constitute of one building, two buildings? Type of scenario.
Yeah, and if you're having everybody come in the same entrance, can you really consider it two separate buildings? You know what I mean? I don't know if there's any logistical concern with that, you could probably speak to that.
The other person I would say that should probably weigh in on it is the county attorney. And what can we not? Is there a difference between what you can ban or limit people carrying into a courtroom? Is that different for what people can carry into a public open meeting?
My understanding is not if this is one building.
Well, no,
it's all gonna be-
take away the one person's two building thing,
Okay.
strictly in an open public meeting, what can or can not be banned from a person carrying it? Because if we have a all-nighter, 6-hour board meeting, can we stop the general public who has a right to attend that meeting from bringing in a basic water bottle with them?
Or a baby bottle with formula thing, a small child with it, something. Yeah, I guess those are good points too. Something we'll have to contemplate in the future here.
Yes, I got the notes that I've heard you loud and clear on that, the sheriff and the attorney. We'll see if we get that lined up for next month.
Include Supervisor Schwab, did you have one to follow up on that yet, or?
Yes, with the detailed drawing on page 7, as far as the security lobby goes. I understand it, or at least it's my recollection, that the existing security station goes off to the north, and I'm assuming that might be why this is drawn that way. But if we were to put the incoming security stations straight in to the west and have exiting around the outsides, that may create some efficiencies with regard to getting people in, having one set of deputies, all that fun stuff, if that makes sense.
It could be one of the driving factors you might recall too, was to, people that are coming to vote in the jury room would not have to go through security or even have the appearance of having to go through security. And that's really kind of what drove this to this direction, was that if people are coming to vote, they could go right down that middle coming in and right down going out. And that's what complicates the situation, is trying to accommodate for that factor.
Yeah, but even if we had the security lanes coming up in the middle, there certainly could be a bypass, you know, that would allow for that.
To that whole thought. But if we end up putting up a separate building, do we then make that the voting area? And keep everybody out of here when it comes to voting?
Yes,
Then you don't even have that problem in this building at all, right? There'd be a separate building for that.
correct. Yes. I mean, again,
That
it's-
is another
there
possibility.
is no requirement that you do allow voting in this building, any building that the county owns.
Right.
Right, right now in this particular building, we're trying to marry building or buildings, we're trying to marry court system with open
Yes.
government center with public voting. And employee safety and all those factors.
Do you think, adding on to that thought and the questions that Supervisor Galloway's brought up, is there a possibility that we could find out from the sheriff? I know it might be hard to tally at this point, but what those spare costs would be having that second security line? Because then the problem is, we don't know how many days throughout the year it's gonna be needed. So I know it'll be difficult to come up with a dollar amount. Or whatever funds it would cost us to have that second security line. Boy, we got more questions and answers tonight.
That's great.
Yeah, what it is.
What about on the first floor? The area that's currently 221, or what's shown as kind of like a clinic area. If we would keep facilities in the basement, they're better, sure. And if the clinic doesn't go there. It's a large area to just have for a couple days a year, but make that what's labeled as clinic. The voting area, and for those couple days a year, that first floor corridor is a public corridor through that whole area. Enter people off the west. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a way to not bring the voting people, voting public through the security.
Yeah, it would be, it's kind of tough.
The one thing it's challenging to get them to, we want them to say, this is our entrance over here.
Mhm.
That's our entrance, that's our entrance, that's our entrance, saying, oh, but then for this day, let's move over here, and how we're gonna reconfigure the parking lot, and then making sure there's a deputy there, make sure they don't go to the stairwell right away. As you know, you enter that way right now, it's easy right hand turn, you're in the stairwell. And so you have somebody there to make sure they're going into voting, unless you have a separate complete entrance going to the outside. That's not there right now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, this separate building, take it all out of here. Chairman Schleif had a question.
Well, to spitball a little bit further, once we move departments, we could have voting over in the public agency building, as long as we have it. I don't know if that's in a separate ward or not, so that might be complicating, but.
I know they want to keep them close, but I think as the clerk pointed out in the last meeting or meeting before, it's not required to be in the ward itself. They like to be in the ward if possible when they're close. And literally, if the ward is right across the street, I would consider that close.
That would be a great option if we keep the PNC, but we're looking at possibly getting rid of that building as well.
But you talk about voting and a possible new building, that's at least 10 years in the future.
That's right.
Probably so,
In the meantime, we have to have an option here,
exactly.
and I think the one we have right now is suffice, albeit it has its own challenges.
And if we find out it causes a lot of headaches, we can look at other options.
Remodel some more. Anybody else have wanted to touch on this conversation here?
Again, the role of this isn't to get in some of that administrative lead, but policy, so as, Mr. Schmidt said, what is the policy? So do we want to have voting in this facility? Well, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind, and I'm assuming, the clerk has done all this, is what is the volume? Is it hundreds or thousands of people that come and they need it, or is it a small bunch, and then that small bunch is, has to go somewhere else versus coming here? So again, what is the usage, and does it support all the other things that would need to occur with it, including other policy and those ramifications of this policy? So again, what's the problem are you trying to solve for?
Supervisor Schwab and I have a comment to add to that as well.
And yeah, I appreciate Supervisor Gallus' comments with regard to voting. I think it's important to remember that voting is technically not a county issue, right? The clerk has to tally the votes, but the voting process itself is a municipal issue. And as much as we want to foster relationships with the municipality, and as much as we've done that in the past, it technically isn't our responsibility. Are we concerned about it? Absolutely. Do we want to make it easy and foster that relationship? Absolutely. Well, we really don't have to if there's not a good way around.
Good comment. And the other one too is going back to Chairman Schleif's comment. Is that if we decide to put it in, if we do the other building to consolidate. I know that won't come for 10 years, but in the meantime, maybe we could use a AC if we still own that building. So like I said, there are, just throwing stuff out there, there are some options yet. But in the meantime, I think we You stick to this one, right?
Could be added. Yeah, put it as a additional pass to, you know, when we do bring the actual architect design firm on board. See what they have for. They can look at that public lobby area and. By that time, we know our security needs a little better, really see if they have a better idea of how to circulate that.
Yeah, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but the PRA, the architect.
The architect actually, there's this layout with the sheriff's department, they work collaboratively together to come up with this particular layout. So what we actually did was we asked the sheriff's department and their staff that are out here every day saying, you see it every day, give us a couple layouts. And we had the architect saying, you give me a couple layouts, so he didn't see what they're doing. We thought that was the best way to come up with the best idea. We sat down and the two best ideas, they both kind of had drawn almost identical the same, going, that's what staff was thinking, not just administrative staff, but frontline staff was thinking, this will work really well. And then the architect had kind of, it was almost scary, right, to bond together, because we like, we're not gonna show each other until we get in that room, what we came up with. And so it was a good exercise. I thought that you get buy-in from the staff that's out there as well. There's no, okay, they had an option to actually look at it and provide some opinions too, that again, you don't know what they were gonna think of. So it was a collaborative effort between our sheriff's department as well as the team come up with what you see right now with the parameters that they had at the time was let's incorporate voting into the building. And so that's what we tried to accomplish.
If the public voting is in the building, I like the idea of keeping them out of having to go through the screening. Right now, I'm a creature of habit. When I walk through that door, I know I go through the door and I'm turning right for the security line. Because that's just what it's always been. And this is something that, you know, with the discussion with the sheriff, but what if instead the security line that's always open is to the left? The additional security line or overflow security is to the right. And that security line is screening for if we make, depending on we or whoever makes the policy that no concealed carry is coming in the building or something. Like kind of a tier 1 security that is going to work, that meets the security parameters of both buildings. To get into the court system, it's not so much a full security screening, but it's a checkpoint. That's where you have to drop your water bottle off. Not to beat this water bottle to that horse here, but that's where the easier things to get rid of are the knives and firearms have been eliminated. If that's what we would so choose for our portion. Maybe that'd be a compromise where it wouldn't be two blown security systems having to be run 24/7. It'd be like 1.5. You know, maybe you could find some cost savings.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of stick with the system we have right now and find out what those costs are, and then we can make a better decision as to which way we'd like to go. Cause I kind of like the freedom to move around too, and if I want to bring a water bottle in too, but. So yeah, I'm kind of, but I also understand the two security systems. But if the thing is, if you make this full security, now with your access to the back. You can't, nobody can go through there coming in, right? Everybody has to go through staff and everybody would go through security. If this is a full
Staff
system,
has their security pass. Swipe.
yeah, but they can still conceal carry.
Well, yeah, you tell them whether they can or they cannot.
Right.
And it's on the
Sure.
honor system of them to abide by it.
So you're thinking that the court side is gonna go with an honor system?
No,
Right, that's what I mean, if this whole building's a court, it's not.
Yeah, but there's two entrances.
Does every employee that works in the government, in the court side of the building go through security, or do they have their own employee entrances?
They have their own employees.
So they're on the honor system.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it'd be the same policy for our employees. Whatever rules you create for them, they have to.
I think we need to have the sheriff here to discuss all these things with them.
Yes.
Get some clarification from him on where the comfort level is with them and all the employees and. Cause they might say no way, right?
Sheriff and county attorney, yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that'll have to be the next step. Okay,
Chair to that, you were commenting, do we know what the public voting ban of this facility is? There's elections.
We have a pretty good idea, yes, how many people visit us on a daily basis. So the sheriff's department knows exactly who goes into the justice center every day, they keep a tally, but for voting?
Yeah.
Oh, we know what ward it is and how many people voted at the ward, so I think that's.
yeah, I would say a couple
Easy
thousand
number.
maybe and a presidential, right?
It's an easy number to get.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a handful of people that maybe come there that don't vote, but I think those are negligible.
And we're not gonna have another presidential election
For a few years, we got your time on this, yeah. So, all right, well, I guess we threw a lot of questions on
No,
this. You got any more on, I think we're still on agenda item 1 yet, or have we kind of bled into all of them together here with the government center site plan, or is that, I mean, first off, you have more to add to item A yet.
I do not.
So I think until we get some more questions answered, then we'll keep things moving as they are.
Yeah.
All right, then review of the government center site plan.
So this, will hopefully be a little bit quicker. You've seen the site plan before. So we are doing this, we did task our architectural firm to look at, the eastern side here, we've got the survey completed in that area. To look and see, if we did another, we'll call it a public agency or a building in this location over here. To make sure that, they're gonna start sizing that up a little bit, kind of give us a footprint for what that would look like. And so that we can make sure that the modifications that we do now to the parking lot, not particularly impact that going forward. So we are looking at that right now, and hopefully we'll have some of those, more. We plan to have those for you for next month, to kind of show a little, if we do a building there, this is where it could go, this is what it'll look like, so we're not limiting our factor in the future. So we've got utilities that are located out there, so we've got some work to do out there to see what that would look like. The original plan had a building out, I'll call it out the parking lot for a better term, but what would happen if we hang that area up a little bit? They get a little more further to the west, or maybe even connect the two buildings together.
That's kind of what I was thinking, rather than having separate, let's put a hallway or a corridor that joins them.
Correct, that's when you talk about security, that
Right.
we want to have security in that building as well, which is it's up to date as well in that building, because you have people that utilize the Health and Human Services Department and WIC and stuff like that, that maybe don't want to go through security on a daily basis. So so it's another great question. I don't want to muddy the waters too much on security with the next building, because we're not even close to that point yet, but that'll be a great decision point later on as far as that's concerned. Because like I said, you have a couple of apartments over there where people maybe don't want to go through security. Vets, for instance, is over in that building, like I said, human services and mental health and stuff like that, that you don't want to discourage people from getting the help that they need to. Aging disability as well, people coming in with wheelchairs and walkers and stuff, or babies and whatnot, so a little different. We start talking about that group of people, if you will, going through security.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Just one, on the site plan where the Fuel Island salt sheds are, as that stuff goes away. Is that just gonna kind of just stay as a rougher site for the time being?
Yeah, the thought process is that a portion of this, when if this other building ever comes into fruition, this area becomes basically de facto parking lot. Whether it's needed right away, that's what we'll be determining, is how busy does this entrance get, how we utilize that entrance, and does this need to be a parking lot? If you, depending on where this building goes, if you take up half of that parking lot with the building, well, then you might need a little more parking across the way, and maybe not, the way things are going between virtual appointments that people are having and Teams meetings versus people coming on site. But we are working with, we do have room over at the highway department for an entrance salt dome and shed, so if they do move away, we'll be meeting this week with the DOT to look at those sheds and their condition, to see if they want to start putting some money aside to move those. large set is owned by the state of Wisconsin, so it's got some issues, and if they'd like to move it, this might work out pretty well over the next, 5 to 10 years, as the chairman pointed out. But for the short term, everything's staying over there because I need every square inch of storage I can get for salt and everything else.
Any other questions? Is that it for the site? Scott?
Yes, that's all I had for the site.
Okay, review details and furniture plan.
Yes, so we wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of what we're looking at for furniture, so we threw some things in there. That we are looking at maximizing the using of our existing furniture where possible, and again, bringing our vendors in to measure the furniture to make sure it fits. I'm just gonna pick on the county clerk's office where they have a couple cubicles and see if they can just transfer downstairs. They don't fit there. You saw 4 cubicles in the IT area, but we'll move to the IT area. And so we also are looking at the furniture across the way that the, natural resources areas have. At some point, when we start getting that all finalized, we may look at the campus and see how far along they are at the campus, UWMWC or Social Capital, to see what potential furniture may or may not be out of there. I do say a lot of the office furniture that was there was taken with them, especially the good stuff. Was taken away, but there might be some opportunities over there as well that we look at. We have been working with our furniture vendor, GL Furniture. They know what our kind of standard furniture is, what we've been looking for. So they're looking at potentially using used furniture. When you go to a firm like that, when I say used furniture, even it's a couple years old, it's not bad. It's still in good shape. We go look at it. They are actually kind of holding stuff on the side, stuff that we know we might need. Now we're getting a little bit further and further along, saying, yep, we got this used furniture in. Yep, let's kind of put that to the side. So we've been working with them as best we can to put that away. And then if we're out of all other options, then we'll be looking at some new furniture in those locations. So I'll just point in my office. I know not everyone's been in my office. My furniture is now a little over 20 years old and it's fantastic. I wouldn't change it out at all. So just because it's maybe 20 years old doesn't mean it's bad or in poor condition. So we're not basing it on age alone, but current condition and where will it fit. And so I'll pick on natural resources, even the IT GIS area. Not every furniture in every office is going to match. That's not our goal. Is make sure it functions for the person that's in that office and it functions well. But whether it's all like gray, like you see here, or some is gray and some is in off yellow, I mean, that's okay. It's not going to affect your productivity too much as long as it works. So you'll see some existing workstations that we have. This happens to be in the treasurer's office, and you can see they're not matching, right? But that's okay. And then we go down to existing office furniture. Happen to be our facility manager's office furniture. What you can't see on there's some holes inside of that office space that, when they drill the different configuration, right? So, and that's what we call acceptable, right? Going, okay, there's a couple holes drilled in there and stuff like that. You'll see some existing conference room tables that we repurpose. Again, I mentioned that we're going to be using used furniture, our own used furniture, any other gaps. And like I said, we're working with that local vendor. Again, you get a substantial discount by that, using that furniture. And again, UWMC station. Typically speaking, we've got what we call universal workstation, so they'd be integral that they could move in different parts so they all play nice together and stuff. So we've got a county standard. This is what you see, and I can show you if you want to tour what this looks like in different areas. So we kind of have this configuration where we make sure that if we do new furniture, this is a style we're going to get. So if it doesn't work out for somewhere for 5 or 10 years, we can then move it somewhere else or utilize it. So we're trying to have a standard, if you will. But again, the new furniture layouts are hopefully few and far between.
Supervisor Schwab, do you still have a question?
I do. Actually, the principles is laid out for the furniture plans on page 2 of your presentation. I think it absolutely makes sense. And at this point, to get into much detail beyond that is probably premature.
Right.
Yeah, I
We're
would agree.
doing our best to work with the departments where we know it's going to be tight, and really nail those down. And now it's time to go and inventory everything and see what we have and start You know, because up to this point too, we were moving doors from one side of the office to the other side of the office, and that makes a big difference for furniture too, going up, this won't fit, it would fit there. So that's one thing we're working on is to really get our inventory down pat and solid, and not just saying, oh, 3 cubicles, but what are the dimensions of those cubicles? Do they have a half wall associated with it? They have a full wall associated with it, because I'll pick on the treasurer's office where you got the cubicles there, but they don't want the cubicle walls that go up 6 feet because they'll be able to see the counter. And so that's what we're kind of looking at too, going, oh, it might make sense, but in those locations might not fit certain locales.
Supervisor Galvin?
Well, I agree with Supervisor Bob. I think that nothing in here though is always decided that. So replacement schedule for chairs, are they ergonomic or not? What about sit-stand workstation configuration, and how do we apply that? Are those already policies that are in place that HR manages? So that would come to my mind, having gone through this myself a few times with a building of 800 people and cube farms, I had to deal with it a lot. So if you don't have the policy that will dictate what you're going to be doing, you're going to be faced with a lot of questions or challenges.
Do we know this?
Some of those policies are in place, like sit stand and desks and stuff like that. So we have some of them in place. I just am not in tune to know there off the top of my head.
Chairman Slade?
I'm guessing this is also already on your radar, but the departments that are moving over from the PAC, will some of them just bring their furniture over?
100% yes.
If they fit.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Any other furniture questions? Did you have anything else to add?
I do not, just you see the package, and I think the big takeaway is that we'll be doing inventory over the next, several weeks to a month and a half, and get that narrowed down and use as much of those furniture as we can. And I do want to point out that with this case scenario too, if anybody's interested in a tour, see if we all have them available, what we're talking about, we certainly be welcome to do a tour as we get closer and closer to those building plans coming in.
Thank you. Sounds good. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Anything else? Seeing nothing, our next meeting date is April 21st, 2025. So meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.